Hey, what's up? Good morning, everyone. And welcome back to another edition of the show. It's Monday morning, November 8th, 2021. What are we, halfway through the fourth quarter already? I'm here with Kyle Klingman once again, who's up in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Big game. Big game wrestling, Kyle. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm great. It's always good to see you. Wrestling season really never ends, but it's back upon us once again. Pretty exciting times.
It is, man. It was kind of weird to start seeing college open results just because we hadn't had that for a couple of years with COVID and actually seeing tournaments. It was kind of wild seeing it again and just kind of a different game right now. You're seeing a few younger guys do well and some high schoolers pop into tournaments, college tournaments. So these are fun times, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And the season will continue. It'll roll. Just like this show is going to continue. Let's roll right into today's guest. It is Alli Ragan. She's a two-time world silver medalist, 5, 6 maybe time world team member. I get that right, Alli?
I think 5 or 6 maybe.
Okay.
I know one of the years I couldn't go to Worlds though because of I had neck surgery, so I had to pull out last minute. So I think it's 6.
I'm still going to count that. You won the spot.
Okay.
You made the
We'll count
team,
it.
right? Like, yeah, that was all yours. So thanks for joining us today. How are things with you?
Things are good. Things are really good.
Awesome. Just kind of want to dive in, we do this with so many guests, right? Just getting a feeling for how you came through the sport, how you first got introduced. Like, what was your very first introduction to wrestling? And how did it land upon how'd you get going?
Yeah, so my dad, he wrestled at SIUE and then he was a high school coach too after that, and he taught at the high school. So my older brother wrestled too. So it was kind of just, I was there. I wanted to play sharks and minnows with all the other kids instead of sitting on the side. And so that's just kind of how it started. I would just be swinging on the ropes, watching my dad's practices all the time. And so I was finally bored and I was like, I think I want to do this. So for the first couple of years, they didn't let me compete because they didn't want to just throw me to the wolves. So I definitely started with having fun with the sport. So I think that that's really what brought me to the sport. And it was fun. Those games are fun for kids, you know what I mean? So just learning basics at a young age. And then eventually they let me compete. So
Sharks and minnows, man. I haven't thought about that one in a while. That's a fun one. When you were, hey, I just want to play games, right? And swing on the ropes and everything else. Was it just to kind of be part of the activity at first? Was there a thought that one day I want to wrestle? Or were you just like, man, I'm just doing sharks and minnows and whatever else?
Right. I think my parents put me into like every sport you could think of as a young age, maybe hoping that one would stick. So I played soccer. Even in high school, I played soccer. I played volleyball in high school too. So I played pretty much every sport. I played softball. I did gymnastics. Pretty much anything that was like an open thing for young kids, they just threw me out there and were like, stay busy. So I think at the beginning, it was just that fun. And just, I don't know, it was a new thing to start and it was part of my family too. So I think that's pretty much how I started. And then from there, I started to really get super competitive, like overly competitive. So, and then once I started competing, I lost a lot at the beginning too. So definitely finding that fun in wrestling at a young age and not getting too discouraged by when I would get beat up by the boys. So I think that was definitely how I started to like it.
Okay. And you said overly competitive, right? And
Yeah.
That's not all that uncommon, but describe what overly competitive is like for you as a kid.
Well, we would play card games as kids with the family. So if I lost, I would just like crinkle up all the cards and just like throw them. So that kind of explains how overly competitive I was. Just like if I couldn't win, no one could win. So I kind of had to get out of that mode. My parents were like, this is not going too well. And so definitely super over competitive. And then when it came to a kid, when I would wrestle, if I lost, like I thought the world was over, just like crying. And they're like, oh no, what did we do? So I think that that's how that overly competitiveness came about. But I think still that's why I think they held me out of competition for so long at a young age.
Sure. And you mentioned like, losing a lot when you were younger or maybe at the beginning. And I think you said getting beat up by the boys. Like, were there many other girls in your club or your team or that you got to compete against elsewhere at the beginning, right?
No, I was the only girl And it was nice because my older brother was in the club too, so he would like take me under his wing kind of thing. But no, I was the only girl. I didn't see any girls for so long. I know Caitlin Chase and Mary Kelly, if you're familiar with them, they were other girls that were older than me that wrestled in Illinois. So those were kind of like my role models. I looked up to them. So because I knew, I was like, oh, if they're wrestling, if they're a girl and they're wrestling, it can't just be me. So they kind of paved the way for me that it wasn't such a foreign thing for girls, even though I never saw them. So yeah.
What was I guess acceptance like, right? How did the guys, and then maybe there's different, right? Maybe some people welcome you with warm arms, maybe some were mean jerks about it. But what was your experience with either kids within your own team or going to other tournaments and the boys accepting you, not accepting you, caring or not caring?
Yeah, I think at tournaments, it was like almost like I was a zoo animal where people would just like line up around the mats, be like, oh, the girls wrestling, like a show or something. So I think that was how it was at tournaments. And then I would go to all boys camps too. And I feel like I always had to prove myself. Like no one wanted to be my partner ever. So I was like, hey guys, I promise I'll drill hard and I'll work hard. And so it was almost that like having to prove yourself every single day when you came to practice, which sucks. But it is what it is. So.
Do you feel like that almost could have helped in a way because you kind of guys can just kind of fade in, fade out, kind of blend in, right? But a girl's going to be noticed, or at least the environment you're describing is going to be noticed the whole time. So like you can't slack off because they probably want to see you break or whatnot, right? Do you felt like maybe that had made you sharper and you had to like kind of always be on?
Yeah, definitely. We would go to me and Zane Richards. He was my high school teammate since we were little too. So little kids club. So we would go to Perler Wrestling Academy up in St. Louis. Our parents would drive us. And there was that. No one wanted to be a partner. But the whole time I was like, I'll drill hard. Don't worry. I'll prove myself to be a good partner. So eventually I had to drill hard the whole time or else no one would be my partner the next time. So, and then the guys talk, the little boys talk. So they're like, oh, she was really not a bad partner. So I think that, that does help.
Sure. You mentioned Zane Richards, right? He's a stud. He's an animal. Were you guys, did you train together a lot as you were younger growing up?
Oh yeah. All through high school. I'm 2 years older than him in high school. But yeah, he came in hot freshman year and I was like, oh gosh, you can't slack when you drill with him because it's like going live right off the whistle at the beginning of practice. So he definitely helped me a lot. And then he definitely got the better of me every single day. So if anything, it helped. And he's like a brother to me now. Our parents are best friends. So yeah, big fan of Zane.
When did you like develop a passion, like a deep passion, right? There's like playing sharks and minnows and kind of just wanting to kind of do it because whatever. But then there's like, I don't know, falling in love with the wrestling and eventually you made a career and a life out of it, right? Was that something that happened from a young age or is that something that took time or at some point it just was there?
I think that definitely took time. I think for me, I almost didn't wrestle in college. I wanted to play soccer in college. And it was kind of last second that I just went on a visit at King and Coach Mormon was like, we want you. And I went on a visit and signed that weekend because I just loved the campus and loved him. So I think it wasn't until I got to college and wrestling was my main focus that I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this, this is my one sport now. Because instead of playing 3 sports all throughout, this is it. And so let's give it my all and like, let's deep dive into it. So I think it wasn't until college and probably making my first junior world team my freshman year that I was like, hey, this is it. You can travel the world. You can be the best. You know what I mean? So I think that was almost like a wake up sign for me that it was like, hey, this is the only sport you have now. So you might as well be the best at it.
Yeah. When did you like, what, you talk about being younger and wrestling with the boys and go to Perla camps and everything else. When did you start competing in tournaments against girls? Was it not until college or the junior world process?
Yeah, well, college was definitely one. I went to Fargo and I never won Fargo. I think I lost like Helen and Michaela, I don't know her maiden name, Michaela Hutchinson. Yeah. So I lost to both of them and I lost to Brown Delgado. So I think I got second 3 times and I got third once. So I never like in high school was that like number 1 recruit or anything like that. So I think that even then it was like foreign to see those girls at tournaments. And But it wasn't until college where it's like, hey, you only have to wrestle girls now, and it's just freestyle. So I think that was definitely eye-opening for me once I got to college. And it was awesome because you got to be on a team with all girls and just train together, and it was awesome. So dual meets were always super exciting for us King girls. So it was nice to be on a team with all girls for sure.
Yeah, you guys had a great program at King for sure. When did you start, or did you, right? Like, who are your role models, right? And women's wrestling, who were you looking up to when you, whether when you were a little girl or when you got to college, like who were at the top that you, or maybe they were former women wrestlers who had retired at that point, but who do you remember looking up to and maybe aspiring to be or be like?
Yeah, like when I was a kid, like I said, Caitlin Chase and Mary Kelly, they're both from Illinois, and they were both freaking awesome. So those two when I was a young girl and growing up throughout high school and stuff. And then once I got older, I loved Carissa Chun, cannot love her, and she's just an exciting wrestler. And then also Patricia Mirandas, because she was just super smart, wrestled on the men's team at Stanford, and like Olympian, she just did it all. So I think all of those girls were probably my role models. So.
And I believe Patricia was the first women's Olympic medalist. Is that right, Kyle?
Yep. She was.
Yeah, or is it Alli? Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start to set either world or Olympic teams as a goal, right? Was that when you were younger? Was that the same time you were coming up through college and like seeing this bigger scene?
Right. I think it was definitely when I went overseas for the first time, Junior Worlds. I think we went to Romania, Bucharest. And I was like, wow, this is so much bigger than I ever thought, right? Because those foreigners, they scrap, they just bring it every time. So I was like, wow, this world of women's wrestling is a lot bigger than I thought. So I think that's when I first realized. I think as a kid, I was probably like, yeah, I want to be an Olympic champ. But I think most people probably say that. But I didn't think until then that it was like, hey, this is something that I can keep working towards, and it's more realistic now. So I think it wasn't until then.
Romania, right? Tell me about your first international experience. We can talk about the wrestling if that's what stands out, but really like going overseas, especially for the first time, it's like an eye-opening experience in a junior's, a teenager probably. What do you remember about that first trip? What was weird? What was different? What was maybe surprising, wrestling or just travel related?
Definitely the travel. I had never gone overseas. Once I made the junior world team, they were like, what's your passport number? I was like, I don't even have a passport. So I think that whole process was definitely something that I was not used to traveling overseas. And I was on a team with Adeline Gray, Helen, Victoria Anthony, Jenna Burkett, Erin Golston. So we had a great team, and it was to be my first junior world team with all those girls. It was awesome. And we all still competed until I was done wrestling. So definitely that, being on a team with all those really good girls. And there was high expectations because all those girls had made, I think Adeline and Helen had both made a senior world team already. So junior worlds was like their second team of the year. So just high expectations that the coaches had of us going over there, and then going there and getting a medal too. I was like, wow, it's more than wrestling. You're representing your country. And then all those different styles of wrestling too, that you never see in the US. And then also just getting to see new experiences and like seeing their culture over there. And then obviously the food and stuff is very different. So traveling over there and definitely getting used to that and cutting weight and just those long flights. So I think all that combined was just very eye-opening for me.
Sure. What was your most unique food experience?
Oh gosh, probably Mongolia. We would be served like mystery meat. No one knows what it was. Yeah, it was like, yeah, we don't know what it was. Most people like didn't eat it. Yeah, I don't want to know what it was, but we were all so hungry. And there was like, it was a camp after a tournament, and we were all like, I want to say there was like 16 of us in one room, just like bunk bed style. And it was the most interesting experience for sure. Like food and just, it was, yeah, I'll never forget that trip for sure.
Heading into college, you won a pair of titles, and I think your second ones, right? Did you have expectations? Were you, I want to win a national title, I want to win 4, or I want to be an All-American, or I'm not sure where I land, we'll just give it a go? What was like expectations or goals coming into college?
Definitely just to give it a go. I don't think I was like, very goal oriented my freshman year coming in. And then once I got second that first year, I lost to Danielle Lepage. She's an Olympian for Canada. I was like, okay, maybe I should start taking this more seriously. Not that I didn't take it serious, but it was just like, hey, your goals are a lot more important than you think, So I think that after that freshman year, I was like, let's do this. And then that's when they were like, hey, there's junior world trials in the spring. Let's go try and make a junior world team. So I think that at a young age, I was just like, hey, I'm here to compete and have fun competing and give it my all. And that's kind of what JM wanted us, Coach Mormon at King. He just really preached to us, like, go out there, have fun, and scrap. So, and that's what we did every day in the room. So it was pretty normal and natural for us girls at King to do that. So.
Would it be fair to say, did you surprise yourself, right? You came in, you're like, I didn't really have goals or expectations, and then I took second, which is like amazing, right? Yeah. Were you
Right.
almost surprised with that finish where like it's something that clicked in your head, like, wow, I could like really excel in this?
Right. Yeah. I think something kind of clicked, but then it's also the competitiveness. I mean, it was like, yo, you still got second, like you should have won. So I think that it was good and bad there. So I think that always being hard on myself, like I was always super critical, like I said, just super competitive. So definitely that gave me like, hey, you need to go win this thing next year and the years to come. So yeah, that was more or less that.
Okay. You talked about that first international experience in Romania, like that was as a junior, I think, junior level.
Yep.
Where was your first senior world championships, and what do you remember about that?
Ooh, that was in Budapest. Yep, in 2013.
Okay.
That was, I love Budapest. So I think that going over there and being on that senior team, there was definitely those expectations. I want to say I was the youngest person on the team, and it was just. Yeah, it was definitely like eye-opening for sure to go over there. And it was almost those expectations were really high because of course you want to go over there and win and get a medal. But I was almost like shocked once I like stepped on that mat. So getting more experience there and with those international tournaments and stuff definitely helped a little bit. But still, once you get on that senior level stage and you're around all the greats, you see them warming up next to you and all that stuff. I wish it wasn't as shocking as it was at a young age, but it was still good.
What advice would you give for someone who might be in that position, right? It sounds like you said shocked, or I don't know if overwhelmed is a right, or just like kind of
Sure.
the bright lights and like, I can't believe I'm here. Like what advice would you give someone who is in that same position on how to manage emotions or mental state or dealing with like this is a big deal, and to just like kind of keep that in check a little bit.
Right. I think just to put yourself there more. So I think even if it's just like situation tournaments and stuff that you would do simulation tournaments in the room, like put yourself more, like think that, yeah, it's more than the wrestling room right now. Put yourself in that like big arena mentally, So I think that mental aspect of it helps a lot. And if you can put yourself there more and more and more before you compete at the big stage, I think once you do get to that big stage, it'll just be normal to you. So I think that, and just going overseas often. So I think Terry Steiner did a great job for us. We would go overseas, get tournaments all throughout the year on those international tours and stay over there and do camps with the teams. So I think that getting that foreign feel and getting over there, being used to the international experience too, like who knows, like I said, you might have some mystery meat leading up to the tournament. So you might need to like bring your own food, just everything that you can think of, you'll probably need to do. So getting over there more and experience those different cultures and like the way they wrestle is probably my advice I'd give to someone.
Okay. How did you like physically react to that mystery meat or anywhere? Have you ever eaten some kind of funky stuff where it like threw you off or made you sick, or has it always been like kind of been all right?
Yeah, and it was Uzbekistan. Every one of us girls got really sick over there. So luckily my sickness didn't happen till after the tournament in Uzbekistan. I think that was 2014.
Yeah.
But I know my roommate Jenna, she was up the whole night before, just like vomiting, really, really sick, before she competed. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy that stuff like that happens, but it's just what it is. Like, you never know if that like water or you had an ice cube or something, they cleaned the fruit and something that's just doesn't sit right with your stomach. So all of us got sick over there in Uzbekistan, and that was a very interesting place.
Yeah, I went there too. I didn't, for
You
whatever
didn't? Oh,
reason. I did go. I didn't get sick, but like, all the girls got sick. A bunch of the guys got sick. Gary Abbott and most of the media people got sick. Like everybody got sick, and somehow I didn't. But that was one of the lesser favorable conditions I've witnessed as far as traveling the world and going to these worlds and everything else. Well, I was trying to think, like, but you talk about 2013 being a little starstruck or whatever, however you want to describe that, right? But like, surprised you were there or wide-eyed. When did you start to like believe you belonged, and not even believe you belonged, which maybe you believed you belonged in 2013? Maybe I'm not phrasing this right, but when did you like believe you had the ability to compete and medal? Right? Was it after your first medal? Like, wow, I just medaled, I can do this. Or was it leading into that one where it's like, now I'm confident I can go make a medal?
Right. I think it was 2014 in Uzbekistan. I lost a really heartbreaker of a match for third for a bronze medal match, and I got fifth. I came up super short and I was devastated. So I think that's when it was like, hey, you need to switch everything that you do to make sure you never feel what you felt today. So I think going forward after 2014, I was like, hey, it's very realistic for you to medal. And coming up, I think the next year, it was like the next year Worlds was like the Olympic qualifier and stuff like that for 2016. So I knew, I was like, hey, Olympics is right around the corner. And if you want to make this very realistic, then you need to do everything possible that you can.
And how important, and you talked about this, right? Getting the reps overseas, all the things, but like specifically the foreign feel, like, you can't, coach can talk about it all day and you can try to replicate it in the room, but till you really get your hands on somebody and feel, what is the key to understanding? What does the foreign feel like? And is it different for other wrestlers? And what's the key to like handling that?
Like I said, there was only like the Asian feel is a lot different from the European feel and then the South American feel. So I think each like continent and each like European championships, those girls are scrappy. The Russians, the Belarusian girls, all those girls from that European championships, they wrestle a lot different than for example, the Japanese and Chinese girls. And then they wrestle a lot different than the Pan American countries. So I think knowing that and knowing, hey, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and then knowing theirs. And so like, it's just definitely, like I said, just getting used to that. And not that you're going to wrestle any different, but knowing, hey, the Russians, they have those really good firemen. So stay away from that. And then you can't stop moving your feet with the Japanese girls or you're going to get blown off your feet. So knowing that, and yeah, definitely just having more of a feel with them and then being able to wrestle live. Like, I think Coach Steiner does a great job at putting us in front of them as much as possible, whether it's those combined camps or going to those tournaments. So just being around it more and more. So.
And I guess to tack on to that specifically, right, we all know the Japanese women are like, they have proven to have the most success, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you said, that's really interesting. Kind of partly already answered my question. Don't stop moving your feet against Japanese women, right? I guess, what do they do well, and what, in your opinion, makes them so successful?
They're just very, like, if you take a bad shot on them, they're so quick to capitalize on that, and they just are really good at creating those corners. So if you take a bad shot, they're already pretty much around behind you or in on your legs on a reattack. So definitely not moving your feet and hands, because that's what they're really good at. And then at the same time, it's like, hey, how are we going to slow them down? How are we going to get to what we're good at and put them in the areas that we're good at? So definitely knowing and staying away from those positions with them. But it's kind of difficult to stay away from those positions because they're just pretty good in all positions. Like on their feet, they really transition well to parterre, their laces right off their shots. So just being like hyper aware, because honestly, when I first wrestled Kauai in the World Finals in 2017, it was, taking a shot, boom, she's already behind me. So I feel like I was like almost a second behind her. So just knowing that, hey, this is what they're really good at, and don't feel like, yeah, they're really good at also staying very patient. So whether we're just like, us Americans, we're like used to like bullying them or whatever it is, it's not really going to work because they're just so quick to reattack and just take you down and capitalize on everything. So yeah, it's really tough wrestling them because they're good in a lot of areas.
Sure. And so I talked about this, I think right before we came on live, but the top 100, right? We have this top 100 project going on. You made it, number 95. Did you think you said you were surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised. Yeah, I didn't even know that it was coming out yet. So when someone told me that I made it, I was like, you're kidding. And so, yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, two world silver medals. Would you have thought, I guess we already went over when you thought you could win it, but how do you feel about your career when you look back on it? 6 world teams, two world silver medals, two college national titles. Like, how do you feel about your career?
Definitely, it's now that I'm a little out of it now, so I think that it's okay to look back and be like, hey, it's okay, you did what you could do kind of thing. But the competitor in me is like, hey, you didn't win worlds, you did make an Olympic team. So I think it's that give and take kind of thing. So I think now it's like, I don't have to be as hard on myself about not winning worlds or making an Olympic team. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like I did fall short in my career. But then I also, so taking that now and helping now that I'm coaching and stuff now. So I think that is good to transition into my athletes. Like, hey, I didn't reach my goals, but I want to give you guys everything that I know to help you guys reach yours. So.
Okay, cool. And let's just take a look at the segment in this first episode. Coming in at number 95. Let's let it roll.
Consistency. That's the name of the game when you're talking about the next person on our list, Alli Ragan. At King University, she was a 4-time WCWA finalist, winning 2 championships.
She brought home 2 medals from the Junior World Championships, which propelled her onto the senior level circuit. In 2016 and 2017, Alli earned silver medals at the Senior World Championships. Also on her resume, a pair of medals from the prestigious Ivan Urigan tournament out in Krasnoyarsk, Russia. Alli was a staple of consistency, earning her way onto 6 senior level world teams.
She had one of the best low singles in the game, and she carved out a unique spot, advancing women's wrestling for generations to come.
What'd you think of that?
That was awesome.
There's 2 things I noticed, or 2 things I stick out. The one, you hit this soup, right? I think near the end of that segment where you took her straight over the top. And then, I don't know if it was the same match or later, but the very end, I think it was the last clip, they show you getting your hand raised. And like the girls on the mat next to like the doctor being attended. Was that the same one with the slam, or was that different matches?
That was a different one, but yeah. I think that's one where I scooped the girl was at maybe the U.S. Open finals one year. And the other one, I think that was over in Italy at one of those ranking events, I want to say. So, yeah.
Breaking faces or what?
Sorry, girl.
Okay. Okay, so let's jump to present day, right? You're coaching. You're out at Grandview.
Yep.
Did you know you wanted to coach right after, you competed up through the Olympic trials. Did you know coaching was something that you wanted to do, or did it just like kind of come out of nowhere and this is where we are right now?
I kind of knew that it was something that I'd always like. And I feel like I said, I just have so much more to give to the sport of wrestling. I feel like since I didn't reach everything that I wanted to, I want to make sure the girls that I coach now, I want to give them everything that I know to help them reach those goals. So I think that, and it just kind of fell into my lap. It just works out perfectly that I'm also doing my master's there in sports management and then on the coaching staff now. So I think I couldn't have asked for a better position and like a college to be at, because as you know, Grandview, the men's team is like lights out, 9-time national champs. So, and then our girls program, this is only their 3rd year, 2nd for nationals because COVID, we got canceled 1 year. So I think that it's just a program where there's so much can be hype around it. And I'm really excited to help those girls hopefully get on that same train that the men's team is on. So
coaching's different than wrestling, right? And coaching's even like coaching a team's even different from like going and doing a weekend clinic or a week-long clinic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
What has surprised you, or what is different about coaching than maybe you might have thought?
Definitely very, very selfless. I think as an athlete, you have to be very selfish and it's all about you. But coaching, you got to lose the ego. It's not about you anymore. It's about these athletes. And I think it's definitely different that you got to learn each individual athlete. Not all the girls tick the same. So I got to know that, hey, this girl, if I yell at her and get onto her, she'll respond. And this girl, if I do the same, she might be in tears. So I think knowing each athlete is definitely very important. And the way my coaches could talk to me, I can't talk to every girl on the team like that. So I think that was probably one of the hardest aspects to learn, and really making that personal relationship with each girl to know which girls respond the way that they do.
And what excites you about this program, individual athletes, the program itself, where you guys are headed? Talk to me about Grandview and all the great things it has to offer.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the men's team just has that. They've laid it down for us. Like, hey, this is what it takes. I think it was their 4th year as a program. And that 4th year, they won nationals, and they've won it 9 years after. So I think that having that good foundation and just having an athletic department that does love winning, and all the sports at Grandview are really, really good. So, and just athletic department that supports wrestling, and everyone in Iowa loves wrestling. So I think that helps a lot too. And then the girls on our team, we've got a lot of new girls this year. So our recruiting class this past year is really, really good. And I'm just really excited. I think, this Wednesday is our first duel. And then once that happens, season's rolling. So I'm really excited to get that started, because, you can be in the wrestling room training every day, but that competition is fun. So I think that I'm really excited to see the girls compete. So.
Absolutely. And, where do you see the future of women's wrestling, the opportunities? Obviously, everybody knows the Hawkeyes just added wrestling, and you got to think another big time Division I program will before too long. And then it's just going to be, like spread like wildfire. What does this mean for women's wrestling? What does it mean for the sport of wrestling?
It's awesome. I mean, I would have loved out of high school to go D1. And so I think that these girls having these opportunities is great for the sport, great for women's wrestling. And like you said, I just know that it'll be a domino effect from here. So hopefully another D1 school starts here soon, and then it just escalates. So I think that, I don't know, it's pretty freaking awesome. And I know Wrestle Like a Girl is just an awesome organization that has helped build women's wrestling in America. So I know that eventually it'll be just continue to grow. So it's pretty awesome. And hopefully they sanction women's wrestling here in Iowa on the high school level here soon, because I think I'm almost positive Iowa has the most colleges out of any state. And then it's crazy that we're not sanctioned at the high school level. So hopefully they get around to that soon.
Is head coaching something a long-term goal for you?
We'll see. I didn't think I would like coaching as much as I do. So I think at this rate, I would eventually love to be a head coach, but we'll see. So I don't know.
Leaving the options open. I like it. Like it. I've been kind of rambling on here, asking you all kinds of questions. Kyle Klingman's sitting over there, patient as can be, and I know Kyle's got some questions of his own. Kyle.
Well, we got our game sweated out, but I got to ask about Sushil the Cat and Michaela Beck. I think they kind of go together, don't they?
Sushi's right here. He's been annoying, so sorry if I've been moving the screen.
Oh, that's okay.
He's been here bugging me, but he's here trying to be famous on Flow. So yeah,
I love it.
And then no one loves Sushi more than Michaela Beck. Yeah, so that's Sushi's godmother. She's the best.
Sarah Hildebrandt likes cats a lot too. Do you guys have conversations about cats?
Yeah, I don't know who got their cat first, but it was just the way. I think we were both dog people, but the way we travel and stuff for wrestling, there was no way we could have dogs. So yeah, cats it is now. So yeah.
How many have you had?
How many cats have I had?
Yeah.
Oh, just Sushi. So yeah, just Sushi for now. So I don't know. Derek might kick me out of the house if I get another cat. So
I called her a cat lady once at a Final X press conference. It was a joke. I hope you know that.
No, yeah, that's funny. I was like, am I a cat lady?
No.
Kinda, I guess.
There's people with much more.
I love it. Well, yeah, we got our game here. Sweat it out. 5 questions. I think you're going to get most of these, but we'll see. You ready to play?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Number 1. Who was the first U.S. woman to win a medal at the World Championships?
Ooh. I'm going to say Trisha Saunders.
Actually, no, it was Afsoon Johnston in 89.
Oh, that was my second. Okay. Was Trisha Saunders the first world champ?
She was. Yep.
Okay.
She was. Number 2, the University of Iowa's had 2 NCAA champions at 157 pounds. Name them. If you need clues, I can help.
I know Derek St. John, obviously. Ooh, there's only one other.
Yeah, the other one is actually from Illinois too, so I'm kind of giving you a clue there.
Oh, Williams?
Yep, TJ Williams.
Yeah, let's
go. Number 3, who was the first 4-time WCWA champion?
Victoria Anthony. Her and Helen both won 4 the same year, but I think Victoria, since she was a smaller weight, she was the first, right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
And then you answered the other one that I had here. Who was the first U.S. woman to win a world title? And that was Trisha Saunders. And then number 5 and final question, who was our 16th president of the United States?
Oh, God. Washington, Jefferson. I don't know the rest. There used to be like a song that we used to have to memorize, but
16th? This is
Bader, do you know that one? Help me out. Phone a friend.
I'm gonna. I don't know. Is it?
What's the first letter of their last name?
All right, I'll give you a clue here. It's gonna probably be on the license plate of your dad's license plate on the back.
Yeah, I got this.
Abe Lincoln.
Yep.
Land of Lincoln.
Land of Lincoln. So
you
got it.
5 for 5. We don't have a whole lot of those.
5 for 5.
Crushed it.
No, I missed the first one. Afsoon, I missed that one.
Oh, 4 for 5.
I was
never mind.
Yeah.
All right, still passing. Okay, last segment, last game here. This is wins and whoopings. Okay, so everybody's had awesome wins in their career. Everybody's got their ass kicked once or twice. I want you to think of one win that stands out in your memory as, for whatever reason, your best win, your favorite, your most proud, and whatever reason it's special to you and memorable to you. And then like one whooping you took that was just like super memorable, but like, we don't like to talk about it, but we need to talk about it today. So either one, you can do either one first. One win, one whooping.
Okay, I'll start with the bad one first. The bad one is probably when I got beat by Kawhi in the finals of Worlds. That was, I'll never forget that one. Embarrassing. And then the win will probably be when I made the world team in 2016, because after I did make the Olympic team in 2016, I really was kind of unsure about whether I was going to keep wrestling or not. And then I came back and Steiner was like, hey, the non-Olympic worlds came out that it was going to happen. And he's like, hey, you either need to decide now, like, we're going to start training for it, or are you going to be done? So I think that after almost being done wrestling and then going and competing how I like to compete and making that team and then going and medaling, I think that was probably making that team then was probably a good win for me. I think I wrestled Mallory Belty, and I think it was at the NYAC. I wrestled her in the best 2 out of 3 finals.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
What was it that brought you back? Right. I don't know. I'm thinking about not doing it, and Terry presents this options, or presents to you that they are doing the non-Olympics. What was it that this is why I decided to do it? What was your motivation?
I think the way I lost in the Olympic trials finals, just if you go out there and you get off the mat and you're like, hey, I didn't like the way I wrestled out there. It would have been a little different maybe if I went out there and was like, hey, I give it my all. I wrestled my absolute best and I still came up short. I think that's a little different. I'm sure every wrestler has felt that feeling when they get off the mat and they're like, who was that person out there? So I think coming back and knowing that, hey, you can wrestle the way you want to and you don't have to end your career on that. So I think that that probably is what brought me back.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Alli, this kind of wraps up the segment here, all of our games, and and really most of the show. But man, I appreciate you coming on. I want to give you the final word to say anything you want to say about anything.
Thanks for having me, guys. Go Grandview Vikings. Go big game. I appreciate the shirt, Kyle. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, Alli, thanks so much for joining us. Best luck to Grandview and continued success to you guys.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day. All right, Kyle. Good one. Another good one here with Alli Ragan this morning. She's doing big things down there.
Yeah, it's cool to see these high-level wrestlers get into coaching, and I think you're just going to see college women's wrestling get so much better because of that, especially with the addition of Iowa, and then you get an influx of Grandviews. And Iowa, the state of Iowa, even though we don't have high school wrestling, there's 10 women's programs here, so you're just seeing that number creep up, and I love seeing the growth there.
Yeah, Iowa, get with it. Get your stuff together.
I know.
Thanks in women's wrestling.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I'm mad at them.
All right. We'll write them a letter and continue to harp on them. They will do it, right? It's just a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. Yep. And the sooner the better. So make it happen, guys. Yep. All right. For Kyle Klingman, I'm Mark Bader. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.